The desert wind whispered gently through the tents of the Israelites. It was a soft, peaceful wind, like a quiet lullaby floating across the sand. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange and gold, and casting long shadows on the dunes. Children played near their tents, their tiny hands gathering small pebbles, arranging them into little shapes. Some made circles, others made lines, and a few just like the way the rocks felt in their palms. Their giggles echoed softly through the camp. Nearby, mothers were busy baking flatbread over open fires. The delicious smell drifted in the air, warm and comforting. Fathers were checking their bags, making sure their tools were still sharp and their water skins full. They had been on a long journey through the wilderness, and now, at last, it felt like they could rest. The people were finally starting to feel safe. But far beyond the tents, across the wide open land, something began to stir. On the horizon, a thin cloud of dust began to rise. At first, it looked like it could be a sandstorm, but then someone noticed it wasn't moving like the wind. It was fast, too fast, and it was coming straight toward the camp. Then came the shout. A scout came running, his feet pounding the ground, his voice loud and panicked. He ran up to Moses, who was sitting quietly near the center of the camp. "Moses!" he cried out of breath. "It's Amalek! They are coming to attack us!" Moses stood slowly. His face grew serious as he looked out toward the rising dust. He knew the name Amalek. They were a fierce and cruel people, warriors, raiders, and they had no mercy. He turned to a strong young man standing nearby, a faithful helper named Joshua. "Joshua," Moses said firmly, "choose some strong men. Prepare them for battle. The Amalekites are coming." Joshua nodded. He didn't hesitate. He trusted Moses. And more than that, he trusted God. Even though the people had never fought a battle like this before, Joshua believed that God would help them. Then Moses said something unusual. "I will go up to the top of the hill," he said, "with the staff of God in my hands." Joshua didn't ask why. He just nodded again, then turned to gather brave men to fight. That night, as the people slept, Joshua and his chosen soldiers readied their weapons. They prayed. They waited. The Amalekites would arrive with the sunrise, and when morning came, golden and bright, the battle began. Joshua led the Israelite fighters out into the valley. The dust rose around them. The clash of swords echoed off the hills. Feet stomped, shields thudded. The sound of war filled the air. But high above them, on the top of the hill, stood Moses. Beside him were Aaron and Hur, two faithful friends. Moses raised the staff of God high above his head. The same staff God had used to part the Red Sea. The same staff that struck the rock to bring water. This was not just a stick. It was a symbol of God's power and presence, and something amazing happened. As long as Moses held the staff high, Joshua and his men began to win. But Moses was not young. His arms grew tired. The staff began to lower, and the battle shifted. The Amalekites started pushing back. Aaron gasped, "Moses, your arms, they're shaking." Hur looked around quickly. "We need something. Quick, get a stone." They found a large, flat rock and helped Moses sit on it. But still, his arms trembled. So Aaron stood on one side of Moses, and Hur stood on the other. Together, they held up Moses' arms, one arm in each of their hands. And for hours, while swords clashed and the desert wind blew, Moses kept the staff of God lifted toward the heavens. Even though he was tired, even though his muscles ached, he did not give up. Because Moses knew something very important. This battle did not belong to men, it belonged to God. And when Moses' arms stayed lifted, Joshua and the Israelite fighters began to push the Amalekites back, farther and farther, until at last, just before sunset, the enemy turned and ran. The battle was over. The Amalekites had been defeated. God had given his people victory, not because they were the strongest, not because they had the best weapons, but because they trusted him. Moses stood slowly and looked down at the battlefield. He watched as Joshua's soldiers cheered, lifting their swords in triumph. The people below were safe once more. Then, Moses did something special. He gathered stones and built an altar right there on the hill. And he gave it a powerful name. The Lord is my banner. It was a way of saying, God is the one who leads us. His strength gives us victory. That night, as the stars sparkled high above the desert, the camp was quiet again. Children lay beside their parents, their bellies full, their hearts at peace. Fires flickered gently in the wind, and in the middle of it all, Moses knelt and prayed. "Thank you, Lord," he whispered, "for helping us win. When we are weak, you are strong. When we are afraid, you give us courage." Then the old man looked up at the sky, and he smiled, because he knew God would always be with them. So sleep well, little warrior. There will be days when battles come, big ones and small ones, days when life feels too hard, days when you feel like giving up. But remember this, you are never fighting alone. When you lift your heart to God, when you trust Him with your fears, He will be your banner, your strength, your victory. He will lift you up when you are weak. He will send helpers when you can't hold up your arms. He will fight for you. So close your eyes now, breathe deep. Feel the peace of God surrounding you like a warm blanket. Tomorrow, when the sun rises, we'll follow the cloud once more. We'll walk through the desert together. We'll trust the one who goes before us, because He is faithful and He never lets go. Good night.